Magandang gabi. Ako po si Trixie Cruz-Angeles and this is Luminous. Really, today was just to greet everybody a happy Easter and thank you for patronizing Luminous. Gayunpaman, meron ding konting chika because of the propaganda wars that are going on. Of course, hindi pa rin tumitigil ang oposisyon. The general game plan is kailangan pababagsakin or pabababain ang ratings ng ating Pangulo. Do you remember before, sinasabi ni Senator Trillanes sa kanyang interview, do you remember this one? Sabi niya, within the year, babagsak yan, meaning his approval ratings or his ratings in general, the president's ratings in general, to below 50%. That target still remains their target today, according to the Chika source that informed us of what's going on dun sa kanilang kampo. Ang sinasabi is, they suspect that dahil dito sa COVID, at least a portion na his ratings or yung approval ratings natin sa kanya or ng general public sa ating Pangulo ay bababa ng konti. We cannot be helped, nasa kalagitnaan tayo ng pandemya at we can't ignore the fact na overflowing ang mga ospital at malaking concern talaga na maraming nagkakasakit. And in most cases, in any case like this, the president might take a hit. So, ang kanilang general plan is to continually criticize bakbak ng bakbak at mag-concentrate dito sa pandemya and the West Philippine Sea or South China Sea. Kailangan bakbakin nila ng bakbakin kasi ang ina-anticipate nila is naturally bababa ng konti ang approval ratings ng Pangulo dahil nga dito sa surge in cases sa COVID at dun sa overflowing hospitals natin. Isama na rin natin yung parang feeling natin of general incompetence on the part of Duque and no matter what, the president is affected by this. Okay, so given that set of circumstances, ang plano is to just keep yung tira lang ng tira. Never mind if it doesn't make sense. Never mind if salu-salungat yung kanilang mga sinasabi. Halimbawa, Madam Lenny says, ay di ko pinapansin yung mga trolls na yan, NR daw siya. Pero pag tinignan mo lahat ng kanyang mga previous statements, galit siya sa trolls, nagpapa-report siya ng trolls lang daw po yan, pinansin daw siya ng troll, and so on and so forth. So ano yan? Magkasalungat na messaging. But it's impossible that she thinks up of these things on her own. So ibig sabihin, kumbaga, even her own staff, they don't care anymore kung pare-pareho o tama o tugma-tugma o may consistency si Madam. The only consistency that they are concerned about is a consistency na pabakbakin ng bakbakin ang Pangulong Duterte. Bakit? We all know that it's still the president's game. Ibig sabihin, sa darating na eleksyon, yung endorsement ni Pangulo is the main thing that might help, that will change the course of these elections. Kahit ano pang sabihin nila, kahit sila na umaamin, ayaw nila dito sa Pangulong to, they need to bring his ratings down to the level that Trillanes has identified, which is below 50%. That's the game plan. So pag nagtatanong din sila, anong plano para dito sa pandemya? Girl, may plano. That's the reason why we are on lockdown. But we're also rolling with the punches. Hindi pwedeng, sige, eto, may plano tayo sa vaccinations. General nga, di ba, ang naggawa ng plano. Yung chief implementer natin, General Carlito Galvez, has already rolled out a vaccination plan with priorities, schedules, LGUs already notified, and so on. With the only thing left that we're waiting for is the supply of vaccines. Ngayon, dahil nga general ang nagpaplano and they know with absolute certainty that it's the military's playground, planning and execution, lalong-lalo na for something like this. They're anticipating na pag dumating ang mga vaccines, organized si General Galvez, the vaccines will give a new rise in confidence, the economy can open up, and Duterte's ratings are going to go through the roof. And whoever he is endorsing has the biggest chance of winning. Right now, of course, we know that it's Sara Duterte, who, whether she's running or not, is in the lead. Okay, there's no issue about that. And that's an indirect endorsement from the president just by virtue of being related to him. Thank you kay Ma'am Carissa Helgelan. Very nice. Okay. Uh, Sabi ni Manila Walkthrough, next week pa mararamdaman yung epekto ng ECQ sa NCR. That is correct in terms of number of cases. I agree with you on that one. Why? Because of the incubation period of the COVID virus, which is up to 14 days. Diba? So yes, that's absolutely right. Diba? Right now, oo, tumataas pa talaga yung cases because these people, nahawa sila before the lockdown. So 1 week pa lang tayo ng lockdown, incubation can take up to 14 days. So hindi tayo nag-expect ng sudden downturn in the number of cases. Most likely yan, next week we will start feeling it. At ma-pinpoint din natin, if bumaba, saan bumaba ito, ano yung mga areas na identifiable, and we can also identify bakit dito bumaba, bakit dito hindi bumaba. Okay? General rule, tumataas yan when people are gathering because the transmission is from person to person and to a lesser degree from a person to surfaces and surfaces to another person. Thank you kay Elda Arsigal Mashiguchi sa aming super sticker. Thank you very much. Kaya nga po need talagang tumakbo si Sara Duterte para wala na silang laban pa. Sabi ni Just Me and he's watching from Israel. Okay. Happy Easter kay Steve Palaka. Happy Easter everybody, lalo-lalo na dun sa mga tambay sa Facebook. Ano ba daw meron ng si Dr. Quack Duque, tinatanong Louis Adriano? Bakit di siya masibak at sino nasa likod niya nakakasira sa kalidad ng pamumuno ni PRRD? Ito talaga one of those great mysteries of life. Maybe he does have, well, I understand in the early days of the Duterte presidency, but I don't think this reason applies anymore. It was that he was able to deliver votes and that in the 2019 elections, he was supposed to be integral to the election plan of those who the president endorsed. Ewan ko ngayon. Okay? Bobby Fajardo says, hi Sir Bobby, 11,000 today, so the surge continues. Positivity went up almost 23%, so that's 1 out of 4 tested are positive. Our frontliners are overwhelmed, so let's remain in our homes to help manage this surge. Yes, walang ibang solusyon kung hindi umiwas tayo sa ibang tao. We deprive the virus of an opportunity to land on us. Okay? Sabi ni Ma'am Annie Bernardo, nakakasira pa yan si Dr. Ron na yan, pati anak ko naniwala. Alright, maybe it's time talaga to take action against these. I hope people, because I haven't watched him and I don't really want to watch him, high blood din ako. If he is giving out false information, I think it is time to start reporting him to the IATF, to law enforcement, NBI sa cybercrimes, and to the PNP. Kailangan maipakita na yung ginagawa niyang pagkakalat ng false information tungkol dito sa COVID is very, very dangerous. I don't know what he said, but if he says things like there's really no COVID or the vaccines don't work and so on, and this is very dangerous and it will affect the manner in which we are working against the virus. Hi kay Ma'am Jeremy. Salamat po sa super chat. Okay. Ma'am Carissa Helgeland, Elda Hashiguchi, Ma'am Jeremy, thank you very much. Dapat kasuhan yan si Dr. Ron, nagpapakalat ng fake news. Okay, and I think I agree na by this point, ang dami na po talagang very, very concerned. And if may naniniwala na sa kanya, then this is going to affect things like the vaccination program as well as itong current programs to manage the virus. Could you please give me an example of what he says dun sa comment section? Ay, totoo may ghost signal. Sabi ni Joseph Edward Novio, Attorney, totoo bang may ghost signal si PRRD kay si Yorme Isko para magpabakuna? Okay, it's like this. Yung IATF nag-issue po ng bagong rules that allow the mayors to be considered frontliners. So lahat po ng mayors maaari na pong magpabakuna. Yes, legal naman po yung kay Mayor Isko. Huwag naman po tayo magalit sa kanya kasi legal po 'yon. Sabi ni Sir Romel Dizon, guess ko lang, sa last day magfa-file si Madam Sara for presidency. Iwas paninira at boom ang entrada like Papa Dutz. Yes, but I think Mayor Sara might not be inclined to use the very same tactic as the president because by this time, people are already ready. So, maraming hindi naniniwala na hindi siya tatakbo if that's what she's going to use, which is why some people are already taking the opportunity na bakbakan siya. So for me, yung mga ganyang klaseng strategy, kitang-kita na eh. So, 'di ba? Uh, I don't know. Being quiet is a good strategy. Yung ginagawa ni Madam Sara. That I agree with. Yung neither confirm nor deny. So, yun, okay lang yun. Pero yung mga, like, si PRRD, hindi lang last minute. He had to be a substitute candidate. That's the difference. Okay. Sabi ni, I thank you kay Rudolph Amiel. Sabi ni Marco Antonio Ganalon, but lowering the number of hospitalized patients will take a lot longer. The idea nga is to decongest the hospital. So, mag-lockdown tayo for 2 weeks, there will be a downturn in the number of new cases. Yes, we will not feel it until after the 2-week lockdown period. But by that time, the hospitals will start to decongest. And then, during this period also, we'll have to, after this period, the doctors might be able to get some rest. Kasi na-shell shock din sila. We don't have that many, and many of them are already pulling very long hours at the hospital. So we need to give them some rest, hence the lockdown. Sabi ni Dan Ranoco, mali ang strategy ng oposisyon, inaatake nila ang hakbang ng gobyerno, pero wala silang alternative na effective at si PRRD hindi naman tatakbo. I agree, but the problem is the president naman has the endorsement power, di ba? Okay, bago tayo magpatuloy, wag po nating kakalimutan to like and share. Kung di pa po nagpa-follow dito sa Luminous, please like and follow the page. At dun sa YouTube natin, which is has a steadier signal, don't forget to subscribe. Sabi ni Ma'am Ying, yes po, agree now that our mayors too here in the Cordillera, sunod-sunod nang nag-positive po. So, oh my gosh. Oh, di ba si Mayor Benji is sick. Well, he has tested positive, di ba? Sabi ni Maria Muneneng, may surge po worldwide dahil sa mga variants. So anong inirereklamo? Nasa atin po mga mamamayan ang solusyon. Stay at home pa rin worldwide yung gusto ng mga reklamador, lumipat kung gusto yung gusto ng mga reklamador, lumipat sa Brazil, dun kayo. Okay. Sabi ni Handan Adrian Abu SIR, how about ECQ for 1 month? The problem is those people who are daily wage earners, pag ni-lockdown mo ng 1 month, baka mamatay sa gutom. We will need to work out a plan to help people who might not have enough to eat kung ganong katagal ang ating lockdown. Ang laki ng ginastos natin last year, halos 3 buwan tayong naka-lockdown, and the government spent a lot doon sa pagbibigay ng ayuda. Now, you can complain about some of the money that may have gotten lost in the process, and some people na hindi nakatanggap, gayon pa man, nakatanggap ang karamihan, and it was a big help. Ano po ang gagawin natin ngayon kung magwa 1 month lockdown? What about those other people na hindi natin mapapakain? So in any instance, we have to balance these two things. We need to bring down the number. We need to be able to keep people away from each other to prevent transmission. But at the same time, paano natin gagawin yun? Ibabalanse natin yung need ng ibang tao na kailangan nilang magtrabaho para makakain man lang. So, hindi natin pwedeng pabayaan yung mga ganon. Ayun, sabi ni Presingo, kitang-kita propaganda against the government. First, medyo sikat na celebrities, then bumaba sa mga last tier celebrities, then balik sa first tier ay Ann Curtis. O nga, pero napansin nyo, parang nire-reserba pa nila yung iba. Meron naman diyang mga ano, pwedeng kalad ka rin palabas uli sina Kim Chiu, 'di ba? Wala pa tayong nakikitang yung talagang huge name stars. Yung tama kayo, inuuna muna yung medyo, tapos build up. Sabi ni Deng Bautista, even here in Norway, overwhelmed na ang hospital. So lockdown kami until 11 April. Every 2 weeks, restrictions are changing. Depende sa tigas ng ulo ng mga tao. Yes, so wag rin po nating sasabihin na only in the Philippines, because really that's a bad statement in any occasion. So yung pagsasabi na only in the Philippines, parang it means things like sa Pilipinas lang hindi disiplinado ang tao, sa Pilipinas lang may corruption and all that. Wag naman natin, let's not put our entire country down simply because we're disappointed with some of our own citizens. Habak bakers, and this again are repeated questions. Guys, I encourage you to subscribe or sa YouTube or to follow sa Facebook because I always answer this question. Bakit hindi pa binibid out ng NTC yung frequency ng ABS-CBN? Kasi daw nagta-transition sila to digital TV, wala pa pong nagbabago since the time we said that 2 months ago. At inuulit-ulit po namin. So, anong gusto ninyong gawin? At the start of every live, sasabihin ko, walang nagbago sa ABS-CBN, hindi pa po nakukulong si Trillanes kasi tumutuloy pa yung hearing niya at nakabail siya. Si Maria Ressa, hindi pa po nakukulong kasi kahit na-convict siya dun sa kanyang kaso ng libel, naka-appeal po siya, naka-bail po siya pending appeal. Okay? Ano pa yung mga frequently asked questions natin? Overall, di ako disappointed, sabi ni Checks and Lines, mahirap naman talaga ang pandemic. Totoo naman yan. Ang daming factors and things are changing. Hindi nga natin na-factor in yung mag-mutate yung virus. Well, hindi pa siya mutation, pero may variations na siya. The variations being that the virus is becoming more and more infectious. Ngayon, if you think of the virus as a living thing, dahil we got it, alam natin that social distancing, washing hands, wearing masks, and all that are working, and then the vaccines are in place. If the virus were a sentient being, like a swarm, may intindihan nila na kumukonti na yung kanilang source of food, di ba? So, it develops a more virulent strain para mas madali silang makahanap ng host. This is something that we should have expected but we didn't see coming. Now, yung mga vaccines, so far, sinasabi, mag-a-apply pa rin sila dun sa mga variants. Kaya hindi natin masasabing mutation na sila. Ang iba, baka kailanganin na lang ng booster shot after about a month. Okay. Ayun. Dense population plus complacency of people did NCR in becoming a giant petri dish of the virus. Yes, but there's nothing really we can do about the density of the population. As long as people keep coming here to NCR for work or business or other things like that, then it's going to keep happening. So para sa akin, we might have to expect lockdowns every so often. Dapat, this might become a standard procedure every time tumataas yung COVID rates. But please, I'd also like to remind everybody, wag natin itong gawing pagkakataon na maging divisive tayo. Halimbawa, may mga magsasabi, pasaway kasi mga taga-NCR. But remember this, di ba yung Imperial Manila is really a construct. What is Imperial Manila made of? It's made up of people who live here and who come from here, pero hindi na ganun kadami yun. A lot of people are migrants from the provinces or are here for work or for school temporarily, which means the transient population is huge and they are also part of those who are falling victim to COVID. Huwag po nating gamitin ito na pagkakataon na maging divided tayo, lalong-lalo na may padating na eleksyon. Resist the easy derogatory comment. It isn't like that. Nobody wants to get sick. But I agree, kailangan stricto tayong sumunod sa COVID protocols natin. Pero hindi naman po kailangan na mag-away tayo at maging divisive at maging divided. Kasi yan lang po ang inaabangan ng oposisyon. The moment we become divided among ourselves, they win. So wag po tayong ganon. Ano ba itong naano? Happy Easter kay Dij. Happy Easter kay sa mga kay Ansis Laki. Ask ko lang opinion nyo regarding sa medicine na Lianhua. Sana po mapansin. Yes, inapprove na po ng FDA ang Lianhua for mild cases. Hindi po siya approved as a prophylactic, pero hindi lang po Lianhua, dalawa na po yung brands of the same medicine at approved na po. Dati kailangan ng doctor's prescription, ngayon pwede na pong hindi at may findings talaga that they can help either alleviate or cure the very mild cases of COVID. So yes, the FDA has spoken. So maaari po natin, we can use that. But purchase only from reliable sources po ha. There's a possibility na magkaikotan ng fake. So sayang lang pera. Christina says dito sa Germany, extend din ang lockdown. Sabi ni Lilibet Obando, ang sa kanya daw, kahit magpaulit-ulit mag-quarantine, kung ang mga Pilipino naman ay matigas ang ulo, useless din. Sana matira na lang matibay at yung nag-iingat para makabangon na. The problem with that is the hospitals. Overwhelming hospitals. At yung mga healthcare workers natin, they might start getting sick themselves. So, paano tayo pag ganun ang nangyari? And please, hindi naman po limited sa Pilipino yung mga ganyang klaseng attitude. So, wag nating sasabihin kasi pasaway ang Pinoy o Pilipinas lang or only in the Philippines. That's unwarrantedly putting down your own country. Bakit ganyan? Nagtatataasan naman ang mga cases even in other countries, pero ang sasabihin nyo, Pinoy lang ang matigas ang ulo. Huwag naman pong ganyan. There are many ways to love our country. We don't have to face bullets for that. Yung simpleng, don't put your country down. It's valid criticism is good. Pero let's not make it a habit to put ourselves down either. Diba? Hindi po ako galit. Tunog lang. Tsaka matagal ko na pong sinasabi yon. Even before when I was lecturing on culture and arts. Tignan mo, kung how much we put each other down, yung terms na only in the Philippines. O kaya, wow, ang ganda dito. Parang wala tayo sa Pilipinas. Diba? Parang yung Pilipinas, unmitigatedly ugly. Pagka nagkaroon ng magandang lugar, ay exception. Ano naman ganyan? Fernando Gingging says, very alarming po ang WPS. Wala pang statement ang US government, the fact that we have a 1951 treaty. Because it will kick in only if there's an actual shooting war. It's a mutual defense treaty. So wala po, bawal po kasi yung, ano ba to? Yung act of aggression, yung kumbaga, preventive, na ikaw ang magsa-strike first, bawal po yun. That is a case in the International Court of Justice, binawalan ang US na mag-preemptive strike. That's the Nicaragua case. That's US versus Nicaragua. So, when you say alarming na at hindi nagsasalita ang US because the US cannot. Okay? Well, kumbaga, if you're referring to the Mutual Defense Treaty, now pwede naman magsabi, and I understand that the US and other countries have already expressed their concern over China's massing of civilian boats in the area. At ang excuse, kaya nga China had to come up with the excuse na they were there because of the bad weather. May bagong statement ang Chinese ambassador telling our Secretary of National Defense to act professionally, especially when making statements about the South China Sea. So magkakasagutan tayo dito. Dito sa Ireland, sabi ni Joe M., lockdown po kami since January and mostly last year at malaki na din po debt nila. I hope the people sa Pinas will realize that this doesn't only happen in the Philippines. Sabi ni Ma'am Ruby Sampson, in relation to that, not only in the Philippines matigas ang ulo, dito din po sa UK, kahit mag-pandemic, nag-protest din po dito mga tao, kaya plan extend, lockdown dito. Hanggang May sana din naman. Sabi ni Handan Adrian Abues, oops, nawala ko. Yan. Ay, message retracted. Okay. Sabi ni, uy, oo nga, I heard about this. Sabi ni John Atlas Tumlos, kawawa talaga yung mga Grab drivers na naloloko ng mga scammers tapos hindi pala kinukuha yung mga orders. Dapat bago mag-order, kailangan may ID para iwas scam tapos ikulong yan para madala. That's not just a scam. That's parang ano yan eh, estafa ang tawag dyan. Kulong yan. Nakakairita yung mga ganyan. Yes. At kawawa yung mga Grab drivers. Kaya pag may nakikita akong yung mga ganon, mga delivery services, na binibenta nila yung i-deliver sana nila tapos hindi kinukuha, binibili ko yun kasi kawawa sila. Makakain mo din naman eh. Thank you kay Sai 1988. Most of ABS-CBN stars are making noise on social media criticizing the government. I'm not surprised. Most of them don't have work. At saka bawal ayuda sa kanila. Pero sabi ni Ma'am Cheryl Pedrera, sa kaso nga nung sa Grab drivers, national ID is important. And I think I agree with that one. AstraZeneca vaccine po, may significant cases ng blood clots. Wala ba tayong plano for that? Kasi may donation din tayo from Astra, di ba po? I don't know, we have to check dun sa COVAX. Yes, meron, pero hindi nga sila binibigay dun sa mga may comorbidities right now. Ang tanong is, nagkakaroon ba ng blood clots for those who are not seniors? If that is the case, in some countries, I agree with you, pinull out na nila muna yung AstraZeneca, pero yung iba, they're administering it to those who would not have the comorbidities or yung tendency for blood clotting. Sabi ni Handan, I thought viruses are considered a Schrodinger's cat. It was considered non-living things. It was stated that viruses need a host to survive. Therefore, that's what I said, sir. Please listen. I said, if you consider the virus a living thing, it is not. But if you consider it a living thing, it is something that needs to survive. And that is why in fact, that is the need for mutation. Even among living things, even among people in the animal kingdom, speciation and mutations are survival mechanisms. Okay? It's just a way of explaining it. We are not saying that viruses are living things. Marami na pong followers si Dr. Ron sa FB. Holy cow. You know why? Because people are feeling the need to hope. So, kumakapit sila doon sa mga ganyan. That's why also conspiracy theories abound. Sa psychology ng tao, kailangan nilang maniwala in something in order to stabilize themselves in a world that feels like it's going crazy. So, may tendency yung mga tao na kumapit. So, some people, they hold fast to their faith. Nagdadasal and all that. Yung iba, naghahanap ng mga ganon, ng mapapaniwalaan nila. So that also happens for yung mga non-scientific cures. Some people, the faith is not necessarily a faith in a deity, dun sa maniniwala ka na may Diyos or anything like that. Hindi sa necessarily sa supernatural, but kumakapit sila on things that even science says isn't real. So it's a need for people to hold on to something. And so that's why the only way we can go against that is to take what he says that is false and put it out there and then salagin natin. So that's why I'm saying, ano yung reason kung bakit kayo affected, you have to say exactly what he is saying that is of such concern na maaaring kasuhan siya for fake news. Thank you kay Ma'am ba yan? Jo M. Sabi ni Snowash Candide, open up what is accessible medicines for the poor to fight COVID. Inopen up na nga po yung Lianwa. DOH and FDA acting as riding in tandem, shooting on rampage for favored giant pharmacy. I think that if we're going to make big pharma statements, they have to be supported by the science. So yung mga ganong klase, in fact, yung mga ganyang statements is what any person such as Dr. Ron would use to cause panic and will cause people to hang on to non-scientific solutions. Remember why this Dr. Ron becomes successful because we also help along the need for people to hang on to his statements. Okay? Remember, these things don't happen in a vacuum. It isn't just him talking and then people believing. It's all of these other things that we tend to feed into people's minds. Diba? If we can stick simply to the facts instead of theorizing that everything is about big pharma, of course there are issues about big pharma, no question about that. We've seen it ourselves. Yung pagbablock nga sa umpisa ng Lianhua, which was already being used in China, is a case in point. But we won that. Now Lianhua is actually recognized because it went through the process. Now there are processes for compassionate use, processes for emergency use. And that's what I would like to emphasize. There are processes. Pag hindi ka sumunod dun sa proseso na yon, ano ang gagamitin ng FDA para i-approve ito? So, pagka nakumpleto yung mga processes na yan. Now, if you're talking about ivermectin, I understand ivermectin is undergoing clinical trials too right now. So, it's really a matter of time. I don't think that we need to hurry up the situation because hindi pa ganong katagal na nakakalimutan na natin yung Dengvaxia, di ba? So, remember what happens pag minamadali din natin yung proseso. Let's just balance things out and let's not try to cause panic. Yung mga ganyan na mga theories that big pharma is doing this, it does not help unless you can support it with evidence and somebody actually makes the complaint, di ba? Or we keep gathering the evidence and let's file a sensible evidence-based case. Sabi ni Ma'am Sherry B, Dr. Ron is playing a dangerous game. This guy is a narcissist. Now I'm afraid to watch him because madadagdagan yung viewers niya. Karen Minaw says, can one of the Philippine doctors as a frontliner or DOH staff file against this Dr. Ron for fake news? Yes, but I'm actually giving you advice blind, guys. I don't know what he is saying and none of you are telling me. Sabi ni November Nogo, ano na nga, shoot, nawala. I'll find that. Here in Norway, sabi ni Ma'am Leticia Scarp Yoret, AstraZeneca vaccine naka-pull out na. 2 nurses namatay in Lillehammer and the other one in Tinset. Oh my gosh. So it's true. We're going to have to go slow, move slowly on AstraZeneca. What can you say about the write-up of Philippine Star about China projects riddled with corruption now? Is the dam environmentally friendly? Is this the write-up that Secretary Dominguez objected to because the PhilStar pulled that out? Okay. Paano yung mga nabakunahan na naging positive pa din po? At bakit gumagaling naman po even walang gamot? Bakit yung Japan, open po yata sila? Okay, ang dami ng misconceptions dyan ha. Open na po sila sa US, hindi po, nag-aano rin ang Japan. Hindi naman mandatory yung mask, dapat po gamitin na yung Fabunan injection. Okay, first, Fabunan has not complied with the FDA requirements yet. Okay? Pwede naman silang mag-require. They went through testing in Indonesia and now nothing was heard from it again. If na-approve po sila sa ibang bansa, they can apply for dito sa FDA natin, but nothing has been heard of since then. Okay, number one. So, wala namang issue tayo sa FAI as long as they go through the process. Okay. Second, uh, pag nabakunahan, nagiging positive din. Ibig sabihin, kasi hindi naman kaagad magiging effective yung vaccine. Remember, one, it takes 2 doses. And two, for the first dose to take effect, it's something like 2 weeks. So in that period, pwede ka pa ring mahawa or it is possible na nahawa ka na before you got your injection at nag-manifest na lang po yung symptoms later on. Okay? Walang sinasabi na magic pill yung or magic yung vaccination, hindi yung excuse me, pagkaturok ibig sabihin magic, hindi ka na magkakaroon. It takes some time and you have to read the literature on that. I don't know about Japan being open, and yes, in the US, in some places, hindi mandatory ang masks, but in some states they are. Sa Dallas, sa Texas, I understand from my family that there was a time na okay na, they were opening up the economy and they were saying, they were set to announce na hindi na kailangan ng masks and all that. And then suddenly, eto, nagka-surge na naman. So, it happens. Okay? That's why nagbabago po ang mga polisiya natin kasi nagbabago din po ang mga circumstances. Thank you kay Ma'am Sheila Alba. May cease and desist order po ang FAI. Di ba ni-raid pa sila sa Zambales? I think this is old. I need to to follow up on that. At any rate, nag-apply sila for trials abroad. If i-approve sila doon, they can actually apply it here. Bakit wala tayong naririnig? Okay? Hindi ko pa po nakikita yung cease and desist order, either that or nakalimutan ko na. So, we have to be careful about itong mga ganito nga, na we theorize that certain substances might cure COVID, but we have to also leave it up to the scientists. Now, some people say, bakit si ganito binigyan at sa kanya gumaling? Ang tawag po sa ganyan, that is anecdotal evidence at hindi po mabigat ang kanyang weight when we're considering the safety and effectivity of a substance. Kailangan po consistent at saka kailangan malaman natin why it worked on that person. Ngayon, sometimes it will work on some people and it will not work on other people. So we also have to study the consistency of the medicine or the vaccine. And then furthermore, we need to understand if there are effects. Naaalala nyo, Dengvaxia, hindi kaagad naramdaman yung mga epekto ng vaccine na ito. Diba? But we ended up giving it to about 800 kids and now we have a mess on our hands. That is why we keep saying meron pong proseso. Kailangan sundan. Ibang klase itong kumpanya na pinagtatrabahuhan ko, sabi ni Fernando Cabrera, nag-provide sila ng private group na doctor at nurse para sa PCR at vaccine na Sinopharm. First shot ko last March 23 from UAE. Ay, sa UAE kayo? Swerte nyo. Ayan. Sabi ni Mark Ababa, the vaccine body reaction depends on the person's immune system. Kaya may restrictions yung pag-administer ng vaccine. Yes, thank you. Sabi ni Dennis Fulo, old case po yun at hindi COVID ang claim nila na nakakagaling ito nung pasara sila. Well then, where are the tests? Okay? Bakit wala pa rin silang FDA? If several years na rin po sila, then where are the tests? That's what we need to know. Okay? The reason we don't automatically adhere to endorsing any substance if it has not gone through the tests is because we need to find out why it appears to work in some people, why it doesn't work in some people, how consistent it is, and what are the long-term effects. We might end up trading in a short-term effect of killing COVID, but in the long run, having some debilitating effect on the victims. Do not forget the lessons of Dengvaxia. Okay? Sabi Japanese letters, dito sa Japan, compulsory pa rin ang mask, social distancing at alcohol. Tokyo lang halos everyday more than 400 ang nahahawahan. Wow. Okay. It's very dangerous to spread false information. I'm seeing some people saying that the vaccines aren't real and so on. Please don't do that. If you don't believe in vaccinations, please do not spread your belief to other people. You're free to do so. Pero spreading that around is very, very dangerous. Walang sinasabi na mandatory ang mask sa Japan, sabi ni Body Shot, mag-aaway pa yata kayo. But since this pandemic started, obviously need namin mag-mask at face shield sa work. Okay. Dito sa Israel, sabi ni Joe Dibdib, back to normal na po, Pfizer po gamit nila, mga bata na lang from 12 years old pababa ang hindi pa naturukan at wala pong nabalita na may kasamang side effects. Yes. Alam nyo, I'm always happy to hear something like that kasi pag may nagsasucceed na bayan, na bansa, it means na we're going to win this somehow. Diba? If it happens with them, pwede rin tayo. Sabi ni Ma'am Grace, buy na kami oxygen tank. Ang hirap po kasi nag-ready lang kami. Do what you have to do, ma'am. Science-based naman po yan. Bakit hindi nagbibigay ng vitamin C ang gobyerno pag na-isolate ka? Vitamin C lang binibigay ng mga doktor sa nag-positive. Saan po yan? Okay, it will depend. Nag-positive ka pero wala kang symptoms. Nag-positive ka but your case is very mild. So, also, titignan ninyo, covered ba kayo ng PhilHealth? Okay? Kung covered kayo ng PhilHealth, you can ask for treatment na mako-cover ng iyong, dahil nagbabayad kayo ng premiums and so on. Okay, so kulang po yung detalye para makapagbigay tayo ng opinion dyan. Sabi ni Snow Ash Candid, thank you, more power, your show is better than old bad mainstream paid media. Si Checks and Line says, hindi naniniwala sa bakuna pero complete ng bakuna, pang measles, polio, chickenpox na libre ng gobyerno. Oh, by the way, that reminds me, let's not get caught up only on COVID. Tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang other infectious diseases. Kaya pag nag-a-announce po ang DOH ng mga vaccination programs such as, but not limited to, things like polio, measles, mumps, rubella, DPT, diphtheria, polio, typhoid, o yung mga yan, please make sure the children are vaccinated. Madugo yung mga ganyang klaseng sakit. Hey. Sabi ni Ma'am Ruby Asuncion, the difference of having a full dose vaccine, I love pag maraming health workers dito. The severity of COVID is reduced to a minimum as compared to if you don't have the vaccine. If you don't have the vaccine, the severity of COVID-19 virus is very high. So the difference is the severity. The probability is still there whether you vaccinate or not. Here in UAE, tapos na po most Filipinos sa Sinopharm vaccine. Thank you kay Ma'am Ruby Asuncion. She put it excellently. Ang linaw-linaw. Okay. Eto. Ma'am Cristina Hermosura says, sa market today, out of 56 people, 27 nasa ilalim ng ilong ang face mask, tapos ang face shield nasa ulo. Pinaalalahanan ko pero sinimangutan po ako. Tapos gobyerno may kasalanan sa pagdami ng cases. I think dapat pakialamera na dapat tayong lahat. Congratulations kay Ma'am Cristina. Ako nahihiya akong gumanyan. But I think you set a good example. It's time to remind people, di bali nang i-consider nila tayong pakialamera. Pero please, people, wear your masks correctly. Wear your face shields. That's still extra protection. Huwag pong malilingat, lalong-lalo na pag nasa labas ng bahay. So if you have to go to the grocery, to the market, to work, wear your face mask properly over the nose, ha? And your face shield. Please don't forget, wag pong makakampante ang dami-dami pong cases. Sabi ni Rodney Lantisa sa Thailand, sa April parating na ang 800,000 doses. Sabi ni Nars Maulion, hindi nabibigyan ng vitamin C pero dito sa amin ang LGU ay namimigay, tinamaan ka man ng COVID or hindi. Silang Cavite po. I'm waiting for one of the doctors to speak up about vitamins. Now, vitamin C has proven to be effective against some of our minor illnesses and it helps the immune system. But it is not a guarantee nor, how do you call this? Nor is it a prophylactic, meaning that if you take it, you won't get the virus. What it does, it helps your body, and it is not, kumbaga, not even doctors, some of them don't buy into the vitamin thing. So, to each his own. Okay? Sabi ni Body Shot, dito sa Japan, maayos ang vaccination schedule sa age natin, like last month of the year, or early next year. Okay, wag paniwalaan daw, sabi ni Onin Mauricio, si Dr. Ron. Out of topic. Ang comment ko, bakit ang ospital dyan, manganak na nga ang tao dahil CS. Kailangan pa talagang magdala ng dugo, request ng hospital ngayon, nahirapan ng mag-anak dahil walang mahanap na dugo. I know, it happens a lot. Some hospitals don't have sufficient blood banking. It's happened to me. It happens a lot. It might be hospital practices here. I'm waiting for one of the healthcare workers to say that. But yes, I agree with you. Some hospitals kasi, many hospitals, a majority of hospitals, kulang talaga or hindi sila nagbo-blood banking. Ayun, sabi ni Asukal de Papa, this is now just in the Philippines, even in India, one of vaccine makers has 93,249 new coronavirus cases in the last 24 hours, according to Wyon Channel News. It's not just in the Philippines. Walang balita sa mga mahirap na massive ang infection sa lugar nila, even so lack of proper hygiene, proper protocol, mukhang ang mga upper level status ang malapit sa COVID. I can't make that kind of conclusion until we see the numbers. It might be guesswork on our part. It would be nice if that were true, pero I don't think that's sufficiently supported by evidence yet. Jim Osmeña says, vaccine is the only way out of this pandemic. The UK has vaccinated more than 30 million adults, and we've seen a constant decline in COVID cases. We're slowly coming out of lockdown, while other parts of Europe are back to lockdown and seeing a third surge. Bakit ayaw pakinggan ni Duterte ang sigaw ng nakararami to oust Duque? I don't know. Really, it's one of those great mysteries of life. Yung mga reklamador, sila pa yung pasaway. Nawala. Bilis sabi ni Kristan Buenacosta, kaya dumami ang kaso ng COVID. Yes, but ganito nga, we need to keep reminding each other. Di baling sirang plaka tayo, di baling sabihin na pakialamera tayo. Remind people that you see, mag-face mask sila ng maayos because the less number of people who get sick, the less likely we will get sick. So we need to be part of a community now. Hindi na natin pwede pabayaan yung mga mga tao sa labas. So, if you also see yung mga mahihirap na tao sa labas na walang face mask o paulit-ulit yung ginagamit nilang face mask, ano ba naman yung abutan natin ng isang face mask, di ba? It's still one day that they will be protected. And let's see what we can do. Kasi yun nga yung sinasabi ng Pangulo, yung ibang mga mahihirap, kailangan na natin magbigay rin ng face masks. George Jr. passes, and this is an example of anecdotal evidence. 6 years na siya nag-vitamin C1 tablet a day for 6 years. Hindi daw siya sinisipon, inuubo, or nagkaka-flu. Good for you. But I'm not saying that that's gonna happen to everyone. FYI po, diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, sensya na po pagko-correct. Okay. Thank you. Problema sa mga celebrities, the point is, by the way, is to have your kids vaccinated. Kapag it's not just COVID na tinututukan natin, the other infectious diseases still exist. And so you need to be vaccinated or make sure your kids are vaccinated. Lalong-lalo na sa polio. Please do not forget, wag puro COVID ang tinututukan, pero tutukan pa rin ang COVID. According to international news, manufacturing of vaccines can take up to 7 years pa to accommodate every human being on earth na qualified mabakunahan. So health protocol talaga ang new normal, vaccinated ka man or hindi. Thank you, Ma'am Karen. That is an excellent reminder. Totoo po ba yung issue na some doctors or hospitals dinideclare na COVID ang result kaya na iba na naman ang sakit? Yes, that's true. So iniimbestigahan na daw po sila ngayon. Karamihan kasi nakampante na kaya punta sa beach, punta ng party, yung mga bata pinabayaan na maglaro ng mga mask. Marami ng chismosa na katambay na kabataan kung saan-saan pumupunta. Yes, but that happens in every country. And thank you very much for not making it simply a Philippine thing. So that's why kailangan maging pakialamera na tayo. Sabihin natin yung mga tao may COVID pa po, face mask, face shield, social distancing. Hugas kamay. Waiting ako ng vaccine dito sa Antipolo City, sabi ni Ma'am Lilibeth. Ask lang, meron na po kayang nag-take ng second dose. Wala pa po ako nababalitaan. Tinatanong ni Ma'am Virginia Peterson, may bayad po ba ang swab test? May bayad po, but you can be covered by PhilHealth. Sabi ni Maria Muneneng, ang variants po talaga nagkakos ng surge ng DOH, hindi pa matanggap to. Totoo. Because it's really scary. 2018 COVID-19 test kits planned for 223 countries, World Bank site. Okay. Dito sa Czech Republic, sabi ni Jean ko, the weather is getting better kasi spring na. People are converging in parks in bog groups without masks. Holy cow. Mr. Orendina, please don't flood the comments feed. In the UAE, if you're caught by police without following face masks and more than 3 people in the vehicle, 500 AED equivalent to 6,500 pesos. Can't go home for good without paying and people are following. Matigas lang talaga ulo na, ayan na naman kayo. Some people matigas talaga ang ulo, but let's not limit it to nationality. It's not a good time. Okay? It's never a good time. Okay? Which reminds me, some people think na ang failure, ang rise ng COVID cases is due to the poor law enforcement or masyado tayong mabait. Ang gusto ng iba, gamitan na ng yantok yung mga nag-gather. Hindi ako sang-ayon, pero sang-ayon ako to stricter implementation, yung mga social distancing and all that. But the problem is, our cops can't be everywhere all at once. So part of this is making people feel that they are responsible for this. All of us are responsible for this. The world over, we are responsible for other people. We're part of this entire community And we need to care about other people. So pati tayo, dapat nagre-remind din tayo sa ating mga kababayan, o yung face mask mo, bakit mo binaba? Di baling pakialamero tayo, pero makialam tayo. It's important. Sabi ni Checks and Lines, alarm bells na rin sana na even with COVID, teenage pregnancies rising kahit may curfew ang minors. Wow. Because I don't think it has anything to do with the time. Sabi ni Cabrera Raagas, maybe the government should change the strategy instead of pushing simply for the government to step up its efforts. But we have to involve the citizens and our actions and practices greatly affect us. Well said, ma'am. Ito, si Iko Cayetano says, nakakasawa sa mga parating quoted ng media na celebrities kahit kailan hindi sila nag-advocate kahit man lang magsuot ng mask. Oo nga, no? Ang mga nag-a-advocate pa, ito, yung mga nasa social media, tayo yung nagpapaalala, pati yung paghuhugas kamay, tayo din nagpapaalala. I wish they would take a more proactive approach. Ang problema, tama si Ma'am Chay sinasabi nitong mga kabilang parlor na gobyerno should do this, gobyerno should do that, and all that. What about pushing people to do that also? Diba? Stay at home, wash your hands, social distancing, ligo pag uwi. Make sure, be mindful that your clothes, hindi yung paulit-ulit, wag mong i-expose yung mga tao pati dun sa mga damit niya, yung mga things like that. Naglipana ng misinformation ng Colorum about COVID, ng COVID. Is that a violation of bayanihan? Dahil almost 1 year na tayo yung magdiwang. 1 year of shutdown, 1 year na rin ang manyanita, karma ni Sambojil Sinasto. Reminder din po sa gumagamit ng surgical masks. Please carry a spare and replace the one being used when it gets wet to maintain being protected from COVID. Yes, thank you. Wag po tayo mag-suggest ng gamot na gumagana sa atin kasi merong case na nag-take ng aspirin, meron palang underlying blood disorder, nag-nosebleed, scary, sabi ni Ma'am Christina. Alright, that's a good thing to remind people. Doctors can recommend your medicines, especially if that doctor is your doctor and understands you, knows your history, and knows what your other pre-existing conditions are. Hindi po tayo mga endorser. Hindi tayo pwedeng dapat nagsasabi na, oh, ito nagpagaling sa akin. Subukan ninyo. So, need to be careful because we are responsible also for each other's lives. Please be careful. Tama si Ma'am, si Ma'am Christina. Tinatanong ni Ronald kung may karambola bukas. Meron pong karambola bukas. Proper hygiene at disiplina, sabi ni Rene Baingko. Agree. Ay, oo nga. Ito sabi ni Ma'am Beck Manalo Sogilon. Si Casey nga pala. Casey Concepcion, nag-advocate, may napanood ako sa news. Hindi, nakita ko yung I think she did it on social media. Don't forget, Oo, si Casey nga pala. O, tita mo, there's always a good person in each family. Sabi ni Ma'am Rudy Bendijo, sobrang makialam ang kabilang parlor, especially artistas, pero not hearing them telling the masa what to do would help lessen the infections. At, alam nyo, napansin nyo ba yung mga makabayan or makabayan allied peoples, naghihikayat, dagdagan daw ng 1,000 ang ayuda. Ay, ba't hindi kayo magbigay? Sige nga, kayo, yung mga kongresista dyan, namimigay ba kayo? Saan manggagaling yung ayuda na dagdag? Pakisabi nga. Saan natin na nakawin yon? Gawa na yung budget. Saan huhugutin yon? Nagagalit kayo na ang bilis-bilis ng kukonti yung natitira, kukonti ang coverage ng mga tao sa PhilHealth. Hindi pa nasasara yung mga loopholes, gusto niyong dagdagan, saan kukunin? Sa PhilHealth din? Tapos magtataka kayo kung bakit ang liit ng coverage nito? Kaloka. Sabi ni Ma'am Nenita, the government is doing their part. The citizens should be responsible to do theirs too. Sabi ni Ray, vaccination is just an additional preventive tool which means continue pa rin tayo sa health protocols. Ay, ang gaganda, ang gagaling ng mga reminders. Sometimes I feel that we should be doing these things just so that we can remind each other. Baka kasi nakakalimutan natin sa araw-araw ba naman. Minsan nga kasi nagiging, alam mo yun, COVID tired tayo. And so minsan, I'm so tired. I don't want to go out. I don't want a face mask. I miss having people around. I miss drinking sessions. I miss going out for dessert. So, ah, ang yun, sabi ni Daniel Tamondong, correct, but makabayan blocked. Magbigay sila. Sana all tulad daw ni Casey, maganda, may talent, magalang at may class. Di ba, Frankie, sabi ni Sai-Sai. Ah, ito, sabi ni Cesar Gonzalez, sabi, bakit daw ang taong grasa wala daw COVID? How do you know? Di ba? O nakakakita ka ng taong grasa, feeling ninyo, o hindi yan nagka-COVID. Or, hindi pa siya nagkaka-COVID. Lumalapit ba tayo sa taong grasa? It's possible also that people avoid them. Di ba? It's not evidence that kung magtaong grasa tayong lahat, di tayo magkaka-COVID either. Sabi ni Prima Donya, nakakatuwa pala manood sa live mo. Ang hinahon niyo po nakakakalma kahit ang init ng issues. Kalmado pala ako nito. ano. Ay kasi di natin pinag-uusapan si Madam Lenny. Ano po masasabi ninyo? Nawala. Sa oral vaccine na nababalitaan ngayon, hindi pa ko pa nababasa. I think I'm going to wait for recommendations, but I'll check out the journals kung ano na yon, kung kamusta na yon. Yun, sabi ni Ma'am Imelda Alejo, si Heart Evangelista din po last year, nag-donate ng stylish face masks. Pwede, okay na. Go. Okay, we appreciate that. Okay, we appreciate that. Exercise and healthy food pa rin, sabi ni Ian. For strong immune system against COVID, yes. Thank you kay Sir Daniel. And thank you rin kay Ma'am Ninita, na pasalamatan ko na ba? My sister in Canada cannot come to the US because they have not been vaccinated yet. The protocols are strict. Sabi ni Rain, bakit ang kaki ni Kaki? Minsan makakahanap ng katapat yan kahit gaano pa kabaliw ang magulang niya. Ay di niya maiiwasan ng katotohanan hindi siya kamahal-mahal pero siya ay oy grabe. Wag naman. She's a kid. Okay? I think the best thing we can do is wag na natin siyang pansinin. She's a kid and she's prone to making a lot of mistakes. And Ma'am Karen says, Minaw, I would suggest to adopt living the new normal for the next coming years para maagapan ng surge. We don't know how long this pandemic is, so let's live better and disiplinado. Huwag nating isipin mapagod kundi baguhin muna ang dating nakasanayan na lumabas kung di naman essentials. Oo, from now on, ang inuman by Zoom na lang, kanya-kanyang dala ng bote. Dapat lahat ng namamatay ay sinaswab test. Kung talagang may infection ng COVID-19. At yung iba ay lagnat lang na karaniwan nangyayari dahil sa nagpapalit na panahon mula sa lamig papuntang tag-init. Kasi you can only do that like immediately after death. Pagka matagal na yung wala na rin the virus needs the human body to survive. The body dies, the virus dies with it. One friend of mine also, nagtago after malaman niya na positive siya. Yung mga pananakot ng Negatron, kaya ang mga tao imbis na sumunod sa protocols, nagtatago ngayon. Nako, I think that's also something that we have failed to consider. Yung mga natatakot sa social stigma. We shouldn't stigmatize COVID. We should be sympathetic. Naku, kawawa naman yun. Natakot siya. Sabi ni James, kung ikaw nasa katayuan ni PRRD, I'm not. Ano pong magiging endgame mo sa issue ng WPS China? Do you think naging aggressive ang statement ni Lorenzana? Context. Sec Lorenzana might be running for office. And so his audience is not China, his audience is the Philippines. Like sometimes China also makes comments, ang audience nila, ang local audience nila sa China. Okay? Now, nag-react ang Chinese ambassador sa sinabi ni Sec Lorenzana, saying that he should be more professional. Here's the question. Is Secretary Lorenzana representing the Philippines? He's an alter ego of the president. But the president alone directs diplomatic ties. The president alone determines foreign policy. So, ano yung effect? I think that Secretary Lorenzana's calculation on that is for local audience. China, of course, the embassy has to react to neutralize that. That's all it is for me. It has no, what is the effect? Sec Lorenzana has not directed any of our warships to take down any of the civilian ships. All he says, umalis na kayo dyan. And China is saying, be more professional. May nangyari? This is, what do you call this? Oral maneuvers. But what is the end game there? Depende on your audience. Ang end game yata ni Sec Lorenzana would be to bolster his position as a potential Senate candidate. China has to negate all of the embassy. Trabaho ng embassy yan. Sagutin ng sagutin yan. So, tingnan nyo, hindi kumikibo si Pangulo. Update sa ABS frequency, sabi ni Ma'am Saysay, their Palawan frequency was taken daw by GMA for GTV. Their Bacolod transmitter is dismantled. Yes, which means they're not expecting to be back on the air anytime soon. Okay. May nagsasabing Sec Lorenzana is right. Of course he's right. China should leave. But do you think that his saying that is going to make China leave? Is it? Does that do anything to preserve our right in the West Philippine Sea or the South China Sea? Does it have any effect on our international relations? Does it? Well, it's evidence that we can present under customary international law of the fact that we have not agreed to their being there. But so is our diplomatic protest. Now, I will ask you again, if Secretary Lorenzana says that, what is the effect on international law? Do you think that China, on the mere say-so of our Secretary of National Defense, will leave? Is that there? No, that's, they've been there for so many days, tapos biglang, takot sila kay Sec Lorenzana. No, the warships, our Navy is already out there. Nothing that Secretary Lorenzana says, well, maybe it adds to the, to the, yung pakita natin, the show of our Navy there. It adds to that. Yes, I will agree to that one. Pero in the end, what was the calculation here? What was the purpose? Sabi ni Ma'am ba? Tama ba? Rain Fine Book. I think Del Lorenzana is not only playing foreign policy and national defense because he wants to lure the country away from a war we do not deserve and not involved to the magnet of bloodshed of the two. I don't understand. He's playing foreign policy and national defense. He cannot do that. Well, possibly national defense, but he has no role in foreign policy. And if his audience was the president, why make it public? Why not tell the president himself? Let me see. No words can intimidate China. Just ask Uncle Sam, sabi ni Hill. Sabi ni Roslyn, kung inisa-isa na pong hospitals at walang mag-accept sa patient with COVID, pwede ba makalusot sa checkpoint kung sakali dadalhin mo na lang sa kalapit province outside NCR ang patient mong positive of COVID, lalo na kailangan na talagang ma-admit dahil di na kaya sa bahay lang? I don't see any policy on that, but I think if dadalhin via ambulance at may guarantee na tatanggapin siya dun sa hospital, you can explain it at the checkpoint. You'll need all your documents. Ano yung hinihingi nila na hindi kayang ibigay ng Pinas na ibibigay ng ibang bansa at ng Singapore na nakinabang sa vaccine? Sino pong kausap dito? I still can't get over about the 50 million Pfizer vaccines na pinalampas ng Pinas. Nagtagal tayo. Ang sabi ni Ma'am Marian Padua, ano yung hinihingi nila na hindi kaya nating ibigay? Wala, madam. Na-late lang talaga tayo sa pagpirma, napaso yung offer. No, Rain, you'll have to explain it here. Uh, what is he playing at? Why is he taking it public? Well, I like Sekla Lanzana. In fact, I admire the guy. Pero to talk about foreign policy as though he were in against the president makes him out of line. And why do it publicly? Those are the questions that need to be answered. Sabi ni Ma'am Sofia, kailan po kaya magkaroon ng national ID? O another frequently asked question. Always kong nakikita, sinasagot. Nag-umpisa na po, tapos na nga po in certain parts of Central Luzon, nag-umpisa doon, nasa Visayas po sila. Ang ginagawa po is nag-a-apply yung mga tao doon, nagko-collect ng data, naaantala po ng mga lockdowns natin because they have to take facial scans for this. Okay? Tuloy-tuloy po ang pag-collect ng data. Kung ang tinatanong ninyo, yung actual ID, dahan-dahan na pong nabibigyan ng national ID yung iba. Hindi lang po kasi sa NCR ginagawa, kaya ko konti ang balita. But it is happening now. Okay? Ulitin ko po, wag niyo pong sasabihin na wala pang national ID dahil nag-umpisa na po ang pagre-rehistro, pag-scan at pag-a-apply sa national ID, hindi lang po inumpisahan sa NCR. Okay? Inumpisahan na po. Wayne Pinebook says there's no problem with SecDel kasi if we observe his move, he wants to weigh everything to make sure the country won't be dragged to World War III. This is tactics not only to national defense for all we know, but he is acting rogue. Okay? Why? As a matter of fact, that is an administrative offense. The commander-in-chief has spoken. The president and the president alone directs foreign policy. What is he doing? If it is not clear, if it is not clear to us, and if he's acting on his own, a simple countermand from the president negates all of his efforts, and that's ginalit nyo lang yung kabila. At walang kumampi. Those are the stakes here. Happy Resurrection Day kay Ma'am Ninita. Talking about national ID, nako. Opinion ko, attorney, to gain national attention in our favor, the UN for one. What do you think the UN doesn't know already? Several countries have already expressed their stand against the occupation of China. What makes you think that pag tayo yung nagsalita, it adds to the issue internationally? Other countries are already weighing in. The UN is aware of the situation. The mechanisms of the UNCLOS are available, but we know that they don't work. What do you think is going to happen? Ako, I am not sold. I understand that you have good faith for SecDel. I also have good faith in him. But the problem is the president, and the president alone can direct foreign relations. Right? If the president he's quiet right now, then I'm assuming hindi niya pinapagalitan. But at the same time, he understands also that the president has taken a hit for this. And that is something that I do not agree with. Mga OFWs, paano mag-apply ng national ID? Wala namang kasing announcement ang embassy dito kasi wala pa po for OFWs. Sa ngayon, pumupunta po, assisted po sila ng Philippine Army doon sa mga lugar nila. Nagbago po kasi yung plano dahil nagbago po ang ating NEDA. Diba dati si Secretary Pernia ang in charge dyan at hindi po gumalaw. So nung nag-take over na si Sec Carl Chua, Siya at saka ang si central bank governor po ang nagtatrabaho ng ating national ID. Sino nagsabing, why is PRRD quiet? Has he called Chinese president yet? No, but he has filed. We have filed a diplomatic protest, and the president talked about it during his address when he addressed the people. When he addresses the people every week. Why would this merit a call president to president? Do you understand how high the stakes are? If he asks the Chinese president and he says no, that's still a stalemate, and now it has gotten worse. Right now, if let's say civilians undertake something there's plausible deniability. But if the president starts to call the Chinese premier, what if the Chinese premier says, don't do anything, we won't do anything? It will be a standoff. And then something happens. Don't you think that pushes us closer and closer to the brink of war? International relations, diplomacy, and the art of war are so interrelated that some of us who think that there has to be some shots fired for anything to happen are sadly mistaken. A lot of the actions on our boundaries, on our disputed territories, they happen in back rooms. Sometimes they fail in back rooms. Look what happened to Trillanes. They don't have to be played out for the audience unless that is the strategy by itself. Diba? We need to know that our officials aren't acting out of haste. If the president has spoken in one way and then somebody says another way should be done, that is countermanding the president. And I am not going to endorse that. Pfizer vaccine na yan last year pa negotiate ni DFA Secretary, sabi ni Ma'am Marian. Del Rosario at amba ng US. No, our ambassador is Babes Romualdez. For delivery yan, using batch ng products ng Pfizer. Tama si Ma'am Trixie. Nahuli at sobrang bagal. Oo, na-negotiate ni Sec Teddy Boy at ni Amba Babes sa US. Dahil may mga kakilala sila doon. Chika system nila, ang dami nilang kilala sa totoo lang. Tapos nakuha, nag-delay po si Sec Teddy. Diba that was one of those times na napilitan yung presidente na tignan kung and then he had to tell people, no, I don't see any reason to fire him. Doon ako na-disappoint. Sabi ni Ma'am Inelda Alejo, and I think we are all united in this, I can just imagine Lenny handling international relations. Oh my God. Sa tingin ko, hindi makakagalaw si Tatay Dig sa issue ng West Philippine Sea kasi kailangan pa natin ng vaccine at China lang makakadeliver nun. Hindi po. Kasi nag-file tayo ng diplomatic protest. Galaw po yon. Please don't think na hindi tayo gumagalaw. Uulitin ko po. Do not dismiss the fact that we filed a diplomatic protest. Okay? Malaking bagay po yan. Do not dismiss it. Kasi it is that filing of the diplomatic protest that assures us that our right on the West Philippine Sea is intact kahit nandyan ang China. Atin pa rin yan, ating exclusive economic zone pa rin yan. Okay? So, once we file that protest, gumalaw tayo. Ang iniisip kasi ng mga tao, yung galaw is to forcibly remove people from a certain place, i.e. that place. Why? Because then, if you think that it has to be action that you can see, then you miss the first point of diplomatic relations. A lot of them happen away from the public view. And as a matter of fact, sabi ng ating Korte Suprema, ang mga negotiations at diplomatic relations, yung mga ganyan po, hindi yan subject to freedom of information. Okay? Sa Canada daw, sabi ni David J.R., lockdown uli, 1 month. Yep. Sabi ni Ma'am Sheremy, Sec Lorenzana really aligned with PRRD. He has done and said things in the past that make you scratch your head. Yes, that is why we are assuming that on this one, he also is not in consonance with what the president says. So in many instances, he has backed down. And that's what I like about him, is that he can admit mistakes. Okay? But my worry is that when it comes to foreign relations, it is only the president who can set it. And if you do not abide by what the president has said or his directive or the direction that he is going, that could be construed as insubordination. Diba? We must be a single nation in dealing with this. That's why I don't like the idea that people misinterpret the president's the filing of a diplomatic protest as not doing anything. Linya po ng kabila yan. Linya yan ng mga dilaw. Sinasabi nila, duwag, duwag. Andyan ang military natin. We have pushed the limits of our diplomatic relations. We have pushed the limits of what we can do under international relations on the rules on keeping the peace. Please understand that. We are not allowed to be aggressive because that amounts to an act of war. You know what happens to people who do that, to nations who do that? They can get embargoed. Okay? Other nations can take action against us, such as refusing to deal with us at all. But, diplomatic relations are even a lot more complicated than that. That's why we can say no to China in the West Philippine Sea, but continue to have vaccine donations and continue to have trade relations with them. Diba? That's how complex it is. There are layers and layers of how we talk to them. And sometimes when we talk to them on one issue, it's only that one issue. Trade relations, agree, we will continue trading with each other. China is our second biggest exports are to China. Okay? Sabi ni Ma'am Macy, yung gustong makipagbakbakan ng presidente, wait lang, alis muna ako sa Pilipinas, kayo po humarap sa giyera. Uy, grabe kayo. Sa mga kritiko at opo ng gobyerno, sana tumulong na lang kayo. Sa tingin nyo ba pag bumagsak ang gobyerno ni President Duterte, di ba buong bansa ang babagsak? At sa tingin nyo ba pag bumagsak ang kasalukuyang gobyerno, papanig sa inyo ang taong bayan? Sinabi nyo. You know the one thing that I would like to remind everybody what we said yesterday? The opposition failed kasi inaaway nila yung mga botante. Di ba? Hindi niyo ba napansin? Botante tayo, di ba? Tapos tatawagin nila tayong tabagogo, bobo. Tapos ang laki-laki nating voting block. Ay, maraming salamat kay Princey Tom. So, instead of asking for votes, nakikipag-away sila. But that's another thing also, ha? Among ourselves, huwag tayong makikipag-away. Let's discuss, which is what I like about here. You don't have to agree with everything I say. Mag-uusap tayo dito. Hindi rin naman kailangan i-resolve natin yung differences natin. But remember that we are all on the same side. Diba? Sabi ni Ma'am Babes Garcia, no way, papanig kami sa dilawan. Sabi niya. I'm sorry, natawa lang talaga ako. But it's true. Yikes, di ba? Diplomacy is the only way to resolve territorial issues. I agree, sabi ni Dortz. Ano po kaya talagang ginagawa ng mga Chino doon sa Felipe Reef? Alam po kaya ng Pangulo yan beforehand? Well, I don't know about that. That would be speculation on my part. Yung mga occupancy nila dyan, I have a theory but I can't fully support it yet. My guess is they're pushing it. They're pushing it to the limits because of also their talks with the US. The US has been more aggressive against China, and China is flexing. And they know that the US is extremely interested in what happens in our shipping lanes here, di ba? Hi kay Ma'am Nenita Avan, hindi kakayanin ni Lugaw. Kung gusto niyo sirain ang trade relationship with China, then be prepared na mawala lahat ng made in China na yung gamit. No! Just like what China did by banning bananas from the Philippines. Diba? It's also possible na, yun nga, ang masakit niyan is that they don't take our exports. Daming lulubog. Uy, wag niyong awayin si Rain. Valid naman yung points niya. That's why nagsasagutan tayo dito, pero we're both remaining respectful of each other, and I'm not saying that he or she is wrong either. This is simply an argument on the interpretation of what Secretary Del is saying. And please don't forget, I like Sec Del. Okay? And I actually think that he might become a good senator. And I think that it's also part of him presenting his platform or presenting himself, nagpapakilala. So, yun, sabi ni Mark Santos, oo naman, walang personalan. The problem with the opposition is that they always tell Duterte what they think is right. They forgot that they have led our country for many years before Duterte became president. Okay. Ayun, agree to disagree. Ayan. And that's what I like. Para to wrap it up, sumusobra na tayo. No? What I like about discussions here dito sa mga live natin is that hindi tayo nag-aaway. Unlike dun sa kabila na parlor, gusto nilang mag-criticize pero hindi yun yung punto nila eh. They want to humiliate us. They want to crush us. They want to humiliate the president. They don't want change. They're not criticizing because they want to make things better. They're criticizing because they want a platform for their candidates to win. That's not being nationalist. That's not being patriotic. That's not loving their country. That's just wanting more power. And that's ridiculous. Why should we vote for them? Yan. So, on that note, which is a good note, actually, thank you very much. Uy, may karambola tayo bukas. But I want to check two more comments. Sana ang FDA and DOH find a remedy for cheaper medications? Yes. Instead of expensive ones? Yes. Halatang may kuntsabahan sila sa kickback? Possibly. Saan kaya nila nakukuha kapal ng mukha nila? Agree? Same old scripts lang sinasabi but no new actions. I think it's also time to review the FDA rules. I think I'm going to do that. Ang problema din sa FDA, if they don't like you, forever nakatenga. But in order to prove na mali yung FDA, you have to have all of your evidence na hindi ka inaatupag and all that. Alam mo, lalo na dun sa food. Sa di ba, in order to sell something, dadaan mo yung FDA approval, minsan, maabot daw ng 2 taon, lugi yung negosyante. Sabi ni Ma'am Sambuanga Hermosa Felt, the funny thing is, Bobo Artistas trying to crush learned DDS. That's true. That's true. And that's what I like. You know what? Have you noticed also that the conversations are becoming more and more intelligent? 'Di ba? Kahit na may mga tao na nagsasabi, "Oh, mahal natin si Duterte. We think he's wrong on this, but we still support the government." That's nuance. And that's an excellent point. We have to continue criticizing pa rin. But the criticism should be for the purpose of making things better, not for humiliating our officials, not for taking down the government. It's to make sure that we're all going to end up in a good place after this. Diba? We're developing, we're pulling together. Let's go for a more united action. Kalimutan na natin yung regionalism na sumusulput-sulput pa rin. Halimbawa, pasaway kasi NCR. Hindi po. Hindi po ganyan. Kasi if you say pasaway ang NCR, that includes people who have come from the provinces and are here residing temporarily or studying temporarily. That's an indictment of the whole country. Di ba? Huwag na natin yun. Yes, some people don't wear face masks. Some people don't wear face masks properly. Our job is to make sure that they do. Let's help each other out. Basta ako, sabi ni Mama Hermosa, Christina Hermosa, NR na lang ako sa national issues. Huwag naman po, kasi I love your comments kay Ma'am Christina. Diba? Maraming salamat sa lahat and thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget to like and follow sa Luminous. And also check your status kung naka-like and follow pa rin kayo kasi minsan mahiwaga ang ating Facebook. And please don't forget dun sa YouTube, your backup is YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe kasi mas steady yung signal po sa YouTube natin. Okay, maraming salamat. And so yan, this was been, as James Bong said, a healthy discussion. I love more of it. I admit that if we have more discussions on this, I will also admit kung mali ako ha, pagka ano. But right now we have no conclusions, so we cannot say that either side was incorrect. Let's just keep talking. Baka we will come up to a more no, to a better conclusion later on. There might be more evidence later on. At any rate, we are not going to we're not bashing the Secretary of National Defense. We still fully support him. We may not agree with his actions or his statements right now. However, we still fully believe because the president still has his trust and confidence in him. And let's admit it, no major mistakes recently, di ba? And not even in the full term. There's some that I disagree with, but I wouldn't call them mistakes either. Okay, maraming salamat guys. May karambola po bukas, 8 to 10 a.m. sa DWIC, 882 a.m. We'll see you then. Thank you. Good night. Have a good evening or day, wherever you are. Don't forget to like and share.